I'm Amy and I'm your nonfiction feminist. The cats are a little crazy right now because it's early enough that they have not been fed yet, so if they are disturbing us throughout this video, I apologize. Also, hopefully the background whir of the electric fireplace doesn't bother my sound stuff too much. It's kind of like a cozy reading day for me, so let's get started. I have a lot to talk about. November was rough. I did finish 4 books so far. I will probably have finished 5 by the time today is over. But most of the books that I finished were within like the first week or 2 of November because of several that I'd started at the end of October and just like hadn't finished by the time the month got started. So, first off, I'll scoot so I can put up the pop-ups. I finished Lock Every Door. I read this as an audiobook. This is going all around BookTube. It's a thriller. You've got a girl who's getting paid to apartment sit. There are some very strict rules she has to follow, and she doesn't really know why. And it was fine. I enjoyed it well enough. I did feel that it was really predictable. Like, there was definitely some things at the end that I didn't see coming that definitely made it more interesting, but like 3/4 of the way through it, I'm like, oh, I know what's gonna happen with this. I didn't ultimately really know what was gonna happen with it, but it just felt really predictable. So it was fine. I can see why it's popular. It just wasn't my kind of thriller. So, I don't know. I read it. It was fine. It was good. It was... I don't have anything else to say about it. Then I finished Well of Ascension. The bulk of this I read in October. This is the second book in the Mistborn series. As we all know, I am not a huge fantasy person, but I've been seeing this on Murphy Napier's channel, and I have friends who are bugging me to read some Brandon Sanderson, so I went ahead and started the Mistborn series, and I am loving it so far. I think it's a really great read for people who are not huge into fantasy. It just has a very like realistic feel to it. The characters all have their own like psychologies and dealing with like traumas and PTSDs of their own. They're very strong characters. The world that is built is pretty divided between the rich and the poor. You get a really good sense of that. It just felt real while also being a fantasy, if that makes any sense at all. I did have a couple of issues with this book. Most of them were with the ending of this book, but in spite of that, I think I might have liked this even more than the first book. So the first book starts off with the bad guy won, like 1,000 years ago, and they're trying to take him down. And the second book follows from where the first book led off. I can't really talk about it too much because spoilers, but I absolutely loved this. I've heard that this book is really divided between people absolutely loving it or absolutely hating it. I am on the absolutely love side. It is far more political than the first book, which is a little more planning and action oriented, which is not something that I would typically like, but I loved it. Next book I finished was 3 Women. I will link my review up in the corner. I don't have too much more to say about this, but 3 Women is a nonfiction. I read it for Nonfiction November. It follows 3 women. I don't know how long. I want to say it was like 6 or 8 years, Lisa Taddeo said in the prologue. But she was like going from one side of the states to the other to collect these 3 women's stories. It's very much discussing their sexual lives, and it's very feminist and it's very awesome. It reads more like a novel, which I really appreciated. The writing style will not be for everyone, and I think that the writing style could very easily have been done very, very poorly. But fortunately, Lisa Taddeo did it very, very well. It's a mix of second and third person. Watch my video if you want to know more. And the last book that I finished so far, it is the 30th, I could still finish something by tonight, was In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I started this as an audiobook that I got from the library, and one day I went over to the Friends of the Library where I volunteer. I was going to help out by bringing some books that I unhauled and like cleaning off books and shelving them, and I helped set up Christmas decorations and stuff. And I saw someone cleaning off this book, and I'm like, oh, buying it. So, paperback, got it for $1. And for the first time, I tried doing the mix of audio and physical book. So I found I liked mixing them, like listening to the audio when I had to go do something, and then when I sat down, I liked reading the physical copy. But a lot of booktubers are trying the listen to the audiobook while reading the physical book, like doing both at the same time, and I could see how that could really help some people with their reading, but I'm finding the technique is not for me. I was doing the same thing that I used to do in high school, where if someone's reading something out loud, my eyes just keep jumping ahead, like in competition with them or something. I don't know. The reading style is not for me. I might try it a couple more times if I happen to have access to both audio and physical. But right now, I don't see it being a reading style that's really going to work for me, but I don't know until I try, right? Also, this book was awesome. It is a nonfiction. I did not plan to read it this month, but I did, and I loved it. Again, it feels very much like a novel, which makes it a pretty easy nonfiction to read. I really, really enjoyed the voice of this. I'm curious about his other books. I think he only did one other nonfiction, and the rest of his are fiction, so I'd be interested to explore more of his books. I will link my November wrap-up, my October wrap-up / TBR up in the corner so you can see what I planned to read, but none of those other nonfiction books really worked out. I am doing a video completely dedicated to my DNFs of the year, where I will discuss everything that I put down for one reason or another. Some books just don't work out. Yeah, not everyone likes DNFing, but I came up with kind of a video idea, so I'm going to talk more about DNFing in the new year. Also, please watch out for Wednesday's video, because I have a huge announcement for 2020 and the things that I will be doing then, and that I hope you will all participate in. Moving on to books that I am currently reading, I am trying to get through Disfigured. This is an ARC that I got from NetGalley. It's talking about disability in fairy tales. Unfortunately, the only way for me to read this copy is on my husband's desktop computer on Overdrive. It will not open as a document on any other device, not even my laptop. It has to be Overdrive on the desktop. That is not a great way for me to read. When I'm on the desktop, I'm watching videos and editing and working on photos. Having to sit there and read something is not great. It's not the most interesting nonfiction I've ever read, but it's also an ARC, so I should really probably finish it. But I've been sitting at like 17% for 2 months now, because I just can't get myself to want to read it because of the style, the way in which I have to read it. So that's frustrating. Hopefully I will finish it by the end of the year. I think it comes out in like March or something. I don't know. Anyways, I participated in what Victoria read's Secret Santa that she did this year, and from, I believe her name was Pumpkin Page. I don't have my phone on me right now. But I got sent Empty Mansions from my Amazon wishlist. This is a nonfiction that I have been seeing around. It is another nonfiction that I wasn't planning on reading for Nonfiction November and that I ended up picking up. This little tab here is the end of the book. The rest of it is like index and appendices and notes and stuff like that. So I'm like a third of the way through it. It's a little more dry than I was thinking. The way everyone was talking about it, and they were super interested in it, and it was supposed to be this super awesome nonfiction, and I am enjoying it. It's just slower. It's much more of a history than a mystery, and histories I'm finding I kind of plod through a little bit. So I am enjoying the story of this. It's just sometimes there are stretches where I'm just not as interested in it as I want to be. But I do think I am ultimately going to enjoy this. This is the mysterious life of, I believe you pronounce her name, Huguette Clark, and the spending of a great American fortune. So Huguette, which as far as I can tell is the way they tell you to pronounce it in this book, it's French, owns several mansions, several family homes. She has several apartments in New York, I think it was. She just has all these fancy places. She has all of this money, and yet at the time that this book was being researched, the authors, Bill Dedman and one of her nephews, Paul Clark Newell Jr., find that she has been living in a hospital for the last 20 years. She is perfectly healthy. She's perfectly fine. She has all these lovely homes, but instead she's just been living in a hospital for 20 years. And this book is an exploration of her family and how she grew up and how her family came into their fortune and why is she living in the hospital. So I think I'm going to finish it by the end of December. I'm just kind of taking my time with it. More time than I would usually take to read a book, but I'm enjoying it. And the book that I am probably going to finish today, possibly on my night shift, which would mean technically tomorrow, I live between the days, is Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. I am buddy reading this with a subscriber. So far we seem to have pretty similar thoughts on this. We're enjoying the writing. Humbert is creepy as hell. I'm getting kind of impatient now that I'm at the end of it because we get all of these lists of the things that he likes about Lolita and lists of the things that they did on their trips, and it's, I don't know, sometimes it's like, can we move on with the story a little bit, please? But if you don't know the story of Lolita, Humbert is a pedophile. He goes to work on this book, and it's in like this other town. It's like one of those getaway things where a writer's trying to find a quiet place that they can write. And he ends up living with a woman because he's in love with her daughter, who is 12 at the start of the book and almost 15 at the point that I'm at the end-ish. And he ends up marrying his landlady in order to have access to Lolita. Hey, buddy. So yeah, super creepy. The things he talks about with Lolita, it's like, you are so manipulative, you need to cut it out. He had an unfulfilled relationship with a girl when he was younger. They were like close to the same age, around like 9 or 12-ish. And you get the sense that him loving all of these nymphets, as he calls them, and him loving Lolita is kind of a way to make up for the fact that he could never sexually fulfill his relationship when he was a kid. And Humbert is also very much an unreliable narrator. He's kind of going crazy. He's very suspicious of everybody. Unreliable narrator is not my favorite trope. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's just that I'm like a super gullible person and I don't like knowing that I can't trust my main character. But yeah, this is probably going to be like 3 stars for me. I'm enjoying it well enough. It's not going to be a favorite. I do like it significantly more than the first time I read it in college. It's just a prose that I'm more ready to try reading. It's very flowery. Lots of big words that you don't typically come across. Very meandering, but I am enjoying it, at least as compared to the first time that I read it. And really quickly, my December TBR. I've discussed my December TBR in, I think, a couple of previous videos. I think I mentioned it in my buzzwords video, so I'll link that up in the corner. And you also see it in my bookshelf organization video, which will also be up in the corner. I've had to nix a lot of those, but I have lowered it down to 4 books that I'm going to try and finish. That is The Water Cure, which was a birthday gift from my husband. Feminist revenge fantasy. It's a cult type thing. I'm trying to continue with my project of reading through all the Bronte sisters, and I'm going to move on to Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. Same subscriber that I am buddy reading Lolita with, we are going to buddy read Little Women, and hopefully I can watch the new movie that's coming out this month. I'm really excited for it. I'm a huge Emma Watson fan. And this is my lowest priority book at this point because I'm really excited about the other 3 books that I'm reading, but I'm hoping to get to Reading Lolita in Tehran. This is a memoir about reading banned books, and I think it'd just be really nice to read after I finish Lolita. Just kind of like a nice book pairing there. So, I think that's all I have for you. Hopefully you have enjoyed being interrupted by my cats and seeing what I am reading. And yeah, watch out for my Wednesday video and my big, huge, wonderful announcement about 2020. Please like, subscribe, be my cat's friends on social media. I post every Wednesday, Sunday, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, friends.